Record on this. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the New Medinah Islamic Retreat. Our workshop today will be Striving for Excellence in Community Life. Today you all are going to hear the voices of our youth, our young adults, and our adults who are the faces of Muslim American leadership. Kamp Khalil Incorporated, our mission is to provide holistic Islamic programming designed to empower youth with the knowledge and skills necessary to become global leaders, impacting our social fabric by positively affecting change in the areas of business, education, politics, and culture. Our vision: to serve as the preeminent leadership institution for the education of youth and to establish a legacy based on moral excellence for future generations of Muslims in America and abroad. Since 2004, we have served over 1,000 youth from over 43 states during our 19 sessions in Florida and 9 sessions in Texas, as well as various conferences and conventions across the country. We have independently and consistently raised our funding through direct community engagement, peaking at over $40,000 raised in 2019. We have evolved from a volunteer-based organization to one that staffs over 20 individuals per year and reinvests in over 9 Black and Muslim-owned businesses. We would love for you all to consider investing in our mission. Investors reduce the cost to parents and provide the capital needed for us to operate. We currently have over 35 monthly subscribers to Kamp Khalil and over 19 annual subscribers. Our goal is to secure over 200 subscribers at a minimum of $25 per month. Visit us at linktree/Kamp Khalil to invest in our mission or visit kampkhalil.org. All right. Today, we are going to be hearing from several young individuals and young at heart individuals who are the future of Islam in America. They will be sharing their experiences growing up and some of the new goals that they have set for themselves. So without further ado, we will welcome our Kamp Khalil participants. So inshallah, we will hear from the future of Kamp of our country. And these are Kamp Khalil either participants or former participants. Right, with us today, we have Shayla Amari out of Atlanta, Georgia. She is a student and member of Muhammad School's Atlanta Firdaus Garden. She is a former camper of Kamp Khalil. We have Ms. Asia Khalil out of Houston, Texas. She's a graduating high schools and community college student, an upcoming student at the University of Texas at Dallas. She is a participant of Kamp Khalil. This will be her last year, and she is on a senior committee for her high school, as well as Honor Society. She is a part of the Masjid Youth Committee and the High School Freshman Mentorship Program. We also have Shuaib Foster joining us from Atlanta, Georgia. He is a graduating senior and upcoming freshman at Albany State University, majoring in kinesiology, thank you, honey, physical therapy. He is a certified lifeguard, swim instructor, and a Kamp Khalil participant. This will be his last year as well. We also have joining us Amir Ahmed from Watertown, Massachusetts. He is a graduating senior as well. He is a lifeguard, a drone pilot, an Alam STEM scholar, a robotics showcase awardee, Arabic student, and former Kamp Khalil participant. All right. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in our participants. All right. So inshallah, we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to pose this question, and then you all can volunteer or we'll call on someone. It's really up to you. Most likely, you all will know when you're ready. So as you all are growing, as you all have been developing over the years, sometimes at your age, being able to reflect on your life and how you have arrived where you are may be a bit more challenging. And as you get older, it will become easier. But if you think about some of the most influential experiences you've had, people that have been in your life, events you may have gone to, what have those been and why were they so impactful for you? We'll start with Shuaib. Shuaib, go ahead and hit unmute.
Like I'm Slade. You said what events impacted me the most?
Or people, or maybe an institution, a school, an environment that you have been a part of.
I'll probably say every MLK Day we went to we went and made sandwiches for the homeless, and a few years ago it was my first time doing it, and it really opened my eyes to like it's a lot of people in need out there, and yeah, I feel like it's our duty to be able to help people and do zakat and things of that nature. And it really opened my eyes to be able to want to help engage in my community more as a Muslim and as a person. Because it takes a village. It takes a village to raise a child, and I feel like you should always get back to that village, if that makes sense. Whenever
It
you have a
does.
chance.
It does. Beautiful, Shuaib. Shayla?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa
Walaikum
alaikum
assalam.
assalam.
I would say the most influential event in my life, according to my Islam, would probably be moving to Atlanta and going to the school that I go to because I go to a Muslim school.
Mhm.
And before I moved to Atlanta, I didn't know any Muslims at all. So that really strengthened my identity and going to a masjid all the time. And I'm there like every day.
Yeah.
So that's very influential.
Beautiful. And we know this is just one. We know that who you all are and who you have become, it's many factors that have contributed to you. So you sharing this one doesn't negate any of the other ones, but these are some of the ones that stand out when first asked. And of course, based on your introductions, there's so much more that you all have been influenced by. Asiya, Khalil?
Assalamu alaikum. I would say I have two. My first one will probably be moving to Texas. I moved to Texas from Orlando when I was 8, and I started my 4th grade year in Houston. And that was it had a big impact on me because I feel like Houston has a lot more culture and it's just like a lot more interesting. I feel like I was in the like majority white populated area in Orlando, so there wasn't people besides the master, there wasn't a lot of people that were like me. So I think moving to Houston helped me kind of learn about other cultures and also learn about my own culture as well. And then also it's kind of cliche, but Camp Khalil, I think was very influential to me because even though there was more cultures in Houston, besides my masjid again, there was not a lot of Black Muslim culture I was around, and Camp Khalil really helped me to like meet people that are the same as I am and kind of make me see that I'm not alone and be able to make friendships there that I keep even outside of Camp Khalil since only once a year. I met my best friend at Camp Khalil in 2019. So I think overall, I would say moving to Houston, and then Islamically and like more personally, I would say Camp Khalil.
And last but definitely not least, Amir Ahmed.
Assalamualaikum. I think for me, I think I have to agree with Asi. I think Camp Khalil, I mean, being from Massachusetts, there's a large Muslim population, but it's less Black Muslims and it's more, people who have moved here from other countries. So I think Camp Khalil allowed me to find more Muslims that look like me and may have shared similar experiences to me. And then secondly, I kind of, it's a little bit of a person, but at the same time, kind of an organization. Like, as I said, I do a lot of robotics and stuff. And previously, before COVID, in my 8th grade and freshman year, I was on a team in like more of Greater Boston. And I'd say more of a, I guess what people would call the hood, or more of like a African American populated space. And seeing, our team on our robotics team, we didn't have as much kind of like abilities to like buy a lot of parts and have like the most updated team. And then after COVID, I switched teams to a team that is in more of the suburbs and close to where I live. But there were more resources, more mentors, and I think that kind of gave me the push to kind of, as Shway was saying, give back to community, because noticing that like these things are things that are free floating. Like a lot of these mentors, they're not paid, they volunteer, but it comes because the school and the board actually want to reach out. And I think it made me want to give back to my community more, because I saw so many students that would show passion for robotics, but just not have the ability to actually do what they want to do because of access they had. I think that impacted me a lot, because I've tried to do a lot of like STEM stuff with teaching people in my community and young students, and kind of getting them motivated in areas that they have interest in, that they may not be able to find in schools or things like that.
Beautiful. So we have gained a lot of insight so far from what you all have said. And I think one of the underlining factors is that anything that is going to allow you to be enriched in your connection to community, anything that is going to solidify some commonality, right, among yourself and other humans on this earth, anything like that is going to be beneficial to you and your growth and development. So we have one last question. As you all are moving out into the world, Shayla and Amari are no longer eligible to be participants. Shuaib and Asia will be experiencing their last year at Camp Khalil. As you all are moving out into the world, you can answer one or both of these. What are some potential threats, maybe that you've already encountered, that may compromise your confidence and your identity, right? May be something that you will have to have more strength and discipline in resisting and saying no to. Or what is some vision that you have for yourself in terms of taking everything you've been given and reinvesting it back into community life? So you can answer one of those questions, and it's up to you.
I'll go first. I think so far, I thankfully have not, well, thankfully, but also, I don't know how I feel. I don't know if I'm grateful or kind of looking for it. Grateful that it hasn't happened, or looking for it to happen. I haven't really been tested in my faith, because my parents have made sure that I'm always in good environments. So I've been to good schools my whole life. I went to charter schools from kindergarten through 8th grade. And now I'm in a public school, but it's like a nerd school. It's an early college. So it's like I haven't really had experience dealing with like bad influences per se. But I think that when I go to college, I'm going to college in the fall. I think that that'll be my first time really having a test of my faith, because as everybody knows, there's a lot of different things going on college campuses, like, parties. A lot of people come from different areas, and not everybody's Muslim. Everybody has the same morals that I do. So I think that'll be the first time that I'm tested, but I'm pretty confident that I'll be able to keep my faith and my morals, because I've had a good foundation so far. So yeah.
Shuaib, Shayla, or Amir? Once again, threats or your vision for your future?
I'll probably say college. I'm going down to Albany, and that's a big school, a lot of things going on and things of that nature. And it's very easy to stray away from the right path. But I feel like I was brought up in an environment where I can bring that discipline that I've learned all my life to really put it to the test, because this is really a moment in time where we take like a big step. We're gonna be on our own. Ain't no parents to wake us up for class. Ain't nobody to be on top of us for our grades. We gotta do that ourselves. And I feel like it's gonna be challenging, but really once I get the hang of it, and I trust in Allah, and
You good.
stay down, stay disciplined.
That's right.
I'll end up successful.
Beautiful. Shayla or Amir?
I think for me, on the kind of like goal side, I think for me at least is as I prepare to go to college, I'm still like unsure. I think first, being a Muslim has impacted my decision a lot on like where I've decided to go, and where it's placed in the U.S. And I think another part of that is the fact that, I think I've had a great foundation, which I think, of course, has led me to make my decision. But my goals in college are kind of to, I guess, create more connections and stuff like that. And I think most thing I'm looking forward to is just kind of like meeting more Muslims, but then also branching out, creating my own connections, especially in Massachusetts, with me being interested in engineering, it's easy to find connections, just happen to run into them. I go to engineering based high school, so I kind of run into the connections. And I think my goal is really just to, foster these own connections myself, but then also meet other people with similar interests, or other people with different interests, to kind of, I guess, broaden my field of understanding of different topics.
Beautiful. And last but not least, Shayla.
When it comes to threats to my faith, I think I might struggle a little bit because I'm going to the Air Force. So it's probably being away from everything that I know and being around more white people, more non-Muslims. It's going to be a little challenging, I think. And just the mental strain of everything, I feel like it will be a challenge. But so far I've been in positions where I would probably say my faith was threatened, but I don't fold. So I think I'll be okay.
Alhamdulillah. Well, thank you all for joining us for this portion. This is our 12 to 18 age group. And as you all see, the future is bright. We have young individuals who have come through the Kamp Khalil program, but they also have the support of their communities. They have strong environments from their parents. And so we look forward to your many contributions that you will give back to the Muslim community, as well as the community abroad. So we thank you for spending these few moments with us.
Hang tight. So we have another group coming in, and then we have one after. We want you all to hold tight. You can mute out your camera, but inshallah, stay, listen in, and you'll join back in for the recap. Welcome back. We are continuing along with our presentation for the New Medinah retreat. And inshallah, at this time, we'll be hearing from our young adults. These are our individuals who are 25 years of age to about 35, and they have had experiences that will provide us insight into the value of programming such as Kamp Khalil, into the value of establishing community life, into the value of family life, and continuing this legacy here. So next we will hear from Khadija Abdullah of Richardson, Texas. It's a suburb outside of Dallas. She is a data analyst. She is a youth board member at Masjid al-Islam. She is a former Kamp Khalil participant and a current volunteer, and a former team leader. She is a member of the Women of Faith Dallas-Fort Worth Young Adult Board member, and she is the Vice President of Muslim Culture Con, a new up-and-coming young adult organization. We also have Aisha Rashid joining us out of Houston, Texas. She is a Senior Clinical Allergy Specialist for United Allergy Services. She is a founding member and volunteer services coordinator for Muslim Culture Con. She is the coordinator for Muslima Nights, a former Kamp Khalil team leader, and a coach for Ikra Voice here in Houston, Texas. Without further ado, all right. Welcome, welcome, ladies. We are so grateful to have you all. Inshallah, we are gonna continue with our questions that we pose to our young participants. If you all think about your experience, right? Growing up, and you are in the wombs of your homes, your communities, various organizations that shaped you. What were some of the most influential people, events, institutions, right, that created that sense of home and shaped your identity and purpose?
Alhamdulillah. I'll go first. So, of course, alhamdulillah, Allah chooses Muslims. So being grateful for being chosen as a Muslim, our parents, raise us and do the best that they can. But inshallah, those of us accept it for ourselves and have a solid community that continues to nurture and protect us. So first, alhamdulillah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, my parents, and also proud alumni of Claire Muhammad School my entire life. So that being surrounded by Muslims all the time, being neighbored in a community with Muslims. My neighbors were Muslims. When I went to camp, they were all Muslims. So I think it was just a solid foundation of always being around people who cared about me, who believed the same things as me, who knew the importance of community life and how it can't just be something that you experience at Talim. Has to be something that you experience within your education, with being next to them as well. Because if you think about it, when you get into certain situations, if your friends are not people who believe and practice the things as you, those are going to be the ones that you reach out to, and they may influence you to do things that you may regret or may just not be the best decisions to make. So the school, that foundation at my home, seeing also the importance that my parents were involved in the community as well. So alhamdulillah.
Aisha?
Okay, assalamu alaikum. My answer is very similar. I also had a very strong foundation, having my parents very involved. My father was an imam. He would, I know a lot of people, children of imams, know that we get our Fajr talks every morning, our Fajr Talim's. But both of my parents are very involved. They created that foundation, that Islamic foundation. And then just to echo Khadija, the importance of community, having so many community members that believe in you, support you, constantly just motivating you to keep going and stay within the community. So I would definitely, I don't want to repeat everything she said. So I would just say, being involved as well, continuing to be involved, being given a space as a up and coming young adult as well. Inshallah.
Beautiful. We're noticing a pattern, and we'll address that in our recap, and we appreciate you all sharing. Yeah. So you can choose to respond to one or both of these. What are some threats? When you all left home, you were no longer in your parents' home. You were no longer maybe in your same city, right? Your same Muslim community. If that was your experience, and you were challenged, you were tested, how did you overcome those? How did you solidify, right? What path you would take, and how you would use these challenges to propel you? And or you can answer, what is your charge? How do you see yourself using all those assets and all of those deposits that were made into your identity and made into your upbringing to further community life, and establish things that are beneficial for humanity, that will speak for you, right, long after you have left this earth? So whoever is ready, you may answer one or both of those, and please identify which one you're answering, of course.
Okay.
You should go first, and then Khadija, inshallah.
Okay. So I'm actually going to answer the first one. I immediately thought about when I went to college. So I'm from Texas. I went to school in New York, so I was very far from my community. Alhamdulillah, I did find a Muslim community there, but it wasn't the same community that I grew up in. So there were challenges in that. And then also just being at a university that is not faith-based, there's constantly challenges, professors would say, oh, we know God doesn't exist, things like that. So I think what really helped me was being able to go back to my community, to my parents, to my older sibling, to our imam, Wazir Ali, and asking them these questions. I heard this at the university, they said this, and they always had a really good answer. They never, shot me down. It was allowing me to take the the secular things that I was learning and put them together with the religion. And I think that's very important, especially with the upcoming generations, especially when we go off to other places. And then having communities that were a little bit different than mine, just being able to share our history, our community's history that was instilled in me from my father, kind of helped me to share that with the other communities and not lose my Islamic identity that I grew up with.
Beautiful. And Khadija, one or both of those?
So I'll answer the second one. What was my charge or assignment, responsibility with our community? I think being a person who's personable and welcoming to people, I feel like that's my charge. Sometimes a lot of folks may feel like, because we talk about creating spaces, but a lot of Muslims may feel, or people who are interested in Islam, that we're not as hospitable, or welcoming. So always being someone who's, if I haven't recognized someone coming into the masjid, give them salams, how you doing, sis? Just anything. I feel like that's my assignment. I've heard multiple times a sister mentioned recently, Khadija is the reason why I continue to come to this masjid. She was the only person who spoke to me the first time I came here. So and sometimes I think we have to ground ourselves in, especially when you're born into Islam, We don't know what it feels like to enter a masjid, not being born into this religion. So I try to reflect on that. If I were a sister coming into this community and I've never been here, I would want sisters to embrace me and to give me salams and tell me where they shop at and where they buy halal meat at. So just always thinking of those things, what I would want to receive as a Muslima, giving that to other Muslims and new Muslims as well.
So now we've heard from two generations of Muslims. And so with our young people, what they've talked about, you see some of the similarities between the older generation. And so we're getting ready to go into a different generation that's a little bit older. And so it's important for us as members of the community to kind of see, you know, how the layers of generations, there's connectivity, there's similarities because we come from the same womb. And one of the things that, you know, that I find very beneficial is that not only the continuity, but there's differences in how they've gone out and being able to engage the world. But you see that everyone still pulls from that same foundation. And so our next generation of Muslims that we'll be talking to are a little bit older, a little bit more seasoned. They probably have, you know, children that are the ages of the first generation that we spoke with. And so to us, you know, just observing this conversation and being a part of it is really enlightening to kind of see the connectivity and the continuity, although that they've chosen different ways to go out in the secular world, if you will.
Hanif is an avid reader, and because of him, I'm constantly being exposed to new insights and authors. And one of the books he introduced me to, entitled The Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell. In that book, they talk about that, you know, the people that we know by name that have made positive, impactful differences in society and humanity, they're not by accident. A lot of times in society, we want to give this sort of like, they came out of nowhere, started from the mud, right? There's this whole perception that you can have a weak or non-existent foundation and become something phenomenal, right? But the reality is you all are branches from a tree. And when we see ourselves as branches from a tree, not only does that empower us to take ownership for our lives, but it puts a responsibility on us, right? To not drop the apple, drop the peach, right? Drop the fruit that has been cultivated and toiled for generations before us. And so what we're noticing as we get more into this session today, most of you all, without giving your full biography and background, you'll find that in your families, like Aisha mentioned her father being an imam, that's the way it goes. You know, people who become great have environments that make it almost an expected result, right? Because it's the fruit of labor. And so, alhamdulillah, we're looking forward to hearing from our next group. But more importantly, you all continue to be thinking about, you know, how we're all connected and the value of honoring those that came before us, recognizing that the good and the bad and the opportunities for growth, I shouldn't say bad, the good and the opportunities for growth, right, are what allow our tree to continue growing. And you are a product of that. So, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So we are so grateful for the insight of all of our young adults. And we're going to move into the last portion of our presentation, where we'll be hearing from the adults who are making a change, making an impact in our community. So we'll start off with some brief introductions. Of course, these introductions don't even begin to capture the life, work, and experience of these community members. So we'll try our best to give you just a snippet, okay? Sister Shahida Sharif resides in Atlanta, Georgia. She is currently the Communications Director of Atlanta Masjid of Al-Islam, co-founder and COO of Hajj Pros, board member of Muhammad Schools of Atlanta, president of Sisters United in Human Services. She's an Islamic studies teacher, and she has offered the invocation at the first annual Faith and Philanthropy Summit at the Vatican in October of 2022. We also have joining us Sister Noor Jahan Abdul Haq of OKC, Oklahoma. She is a pediatrician and owner of Peace of Mind Pediatrics. She is a previous member of the Atlanta Masjid Young Adult Group and a participant in the Seal Nectar Fashion Show. She's engaged in several community activities like the Sisters United Feeding Program, served as a board member for Camp Butterfly Girls, Southwest Sectional Conference co-chair, board member of the Clara Community Healthcare Center, and volunteer presenter during the Southwest Sectional Conference and Ramadan sessions. She's assisted with multiple webinars and radio presentations of various organizations. She's a former member of the Oklahoma ACLU and an active member of Masjid Mu'min in Oklahoma City. And she serves several roles at the masjid. She's a local officer with Jack and Jill of America, the OKC chapter, as well as a national committee co-chair. She is an active member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. We also have joining us Brother Masood Abdul Haq. He is a business owner, operations manager, author, speaker, chairman of CARE OK, Oklahoma, chairman of the Masjid Mu'min, Oklahoma City, and counselor for the Boys to Men of Atlanta. We have Imam Suleiman Hamid, resident imam of Atlanta Masjid of Al-Islam. He is a candidate with THM at Emory University, recently accepted as a doctoral student at Bayan at Chicago Theological Seminary. He is the founder and CEO of Hajj Pros, guiding pilgrims to Mecca for Hajj and Umrah for over 20 years. He is the Islamic studies teacher at W.D. Muhammad High School. He is a former chair of Atlanta's school-wide Majlis, and he's also offered the invocation at inauguration of Atlanta's mayors, as well as the mayor's iftar. And last and certainly not least, we have Rahman Khan of New Rochelle, New York, and he is the Group Vice President of Community Impact, Charter Communications, which is a Fortune 70 club. He is the founder of Good Works Media Group, the Radrick Co. For consulting and speaking. He is a presenter, a speaker, a host of the National Urban League. He is the FCC's Communications Equity and Diversity Council Community Volunteer Service, a former board member of Rebuild Together National, Urban League of Southern Connecticut, and Camp Khalil. He is a current board member of Association of Corporate Citizenship Professionals. He's done Faith Community Service, an associate imam of Yusuf Shah Community Center in Mount Vernon, New York, former associate imam and public relations lead, resident imam, former resident imam of Masjid Ash-Shahid of Charlotte, North Carolina, an advisor currently for the Muslim Culture Con, young adult organization that we heard about a bit earlier, and a regional representative for the National Young Adult Association. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and welcome all of our esteemed guests who are joining us today. Welcome, everybody. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. We've heard from the younger generation. We've heard from the young adults, the little bit of the seasoning of the veterans, but now we are in the heavy season of our multi-generational panel that we've had today. So we're excited to hear from some of our colleagues. We're not going to tell our age, but these are our colleagues. We grew up in the community together. So these are dear friends and former associates on several different communities that you've seen, but we're also just always tight at the hip in the work for community life.
I have a feeling I want to say, like, when you see her, you see me. When you see me, you see her. Like, that is what I think of as I'm looking at you all now, because it's literally like looking at a reflection in terms of the reality of our upbringing, the reality of all that has been instilled into us, and the legacy that we are all actively working to maintain. So without further ado, we're going to get right into our questions.
So the first question is, what are some of the events that were very impactful in your young adult life, whether as a transition from high school to college, transitioning from maybe the workforce into marriage? What were some of those pivotal moments, or some of the individuals that kind of stuck out, that were mentors, that really help you kind of shape, the frame of your mind, and causing you to become, a leader in your own right? So I'm gonna learn from my wife. I'm gonna call on someone. I'm not gonna wait. So I'm gonna go with let's go with Rahman first.
Thank you. So Assalamu alaikum first. And thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to be a part of this wonderful panel and this esteemed group and to be a contributor in some kind of way, inshallah. So I'll say, growing up in this community was beautiful. It was a wonderful experience. It was a transitional experience, coming from the 70s and up. And I remember the early moments of going to like University of Islam and that experience. But I'll tell you, in high school, there wasn't a high school at that time. We didn't have WDM High School growing up in Washington, D.C. So seeing my father and the believers still working hard was very valuable. But one of the most pivotal moments was actually in college. In college, you meet all kinds of people, all kinds of groups, all kinds of philosophies and theologies, and everybody that's there. Some people even call them cults that were out there in college. You would see, and people trying to attract different people. But during my later years in college, our Islamic Student Association, this is at FAMU at Florida A&M, began to grow, and being able to take part of that and having those other brothers and sisters that kind of talk to about some of the things that's on college that was trying to pull people away. And I was never pulled away into that stuff, but it was just everywhere. But one of the most pivotal things was actually meeting my wife now, who is my wife now. She began to ask me questions. And it was like, she didn't know a lot of Muslims. And she started asking questions, what does this mean? And what does this mean? I'm like, wait a minute, I know that. Well, I'm supposed to know it. So I'm picking up the Quran. Like, wait a minute, I'm picking up books, like going to listen to tapes at that time. Like, wait a minute, I got to know this stuff. So she really forced me, and not intentionally, but forced me to get back and like make sure I know and I'm able to articulate, properly what Al-Islam is. And so that was, and as I think about it, that was kind of a big thing for me. And it caused her to, or it influenced her to learn more about Islam. She was coming from a non-Muslim family, but she already had kind of Islamic belief systems around her. And the day we got married, alhamdulillah, she took her shahada, like unforced, unlike, like you don't have to do this, but she took her shahada, and just having someone to grow with and build with over the years has been really a blessing.
Alhamdulillah. All right, so we're gonna go to Sister Noor and Brother Masood.
Oh, Assalamu alaikum. Thank you all for having us. I think I have mine's kind of like a two-part thing. So I grew up in Oklahoma City, and we just didn't have very many youth who were Muslim, especially my age. And so my mom actually started to take me to the More for Youth conferences. They had them in different places. And I remember going to Tuskegee, and I remember like Oxford College in Georgia. And it was at those camps that I really got to meet my peers and to see what Islam really could be like, at that age, 14, 15, 16. And I also made friends with several of the young ladies, but also made friends with Imam Mansour Sabri. And so I became friends with his sister, Ifraj, and all those things. But then eventually when I went to Spelman, immediately all those same people who had been in More for Youth embraced me, and we would see each other all the time. And so it was very pivotal for me. And then there came a point in my life where I just got so busy with school and things like that I wasn't coming as much. And I'll never forget Imam Mansour, when he became the Imam of Atlanta Masjid, he was like, Sister Nurjihan, I'll see you at the young adults meeting next Sunday. And I'm like, I think I have a test. He's like, inshallah. And every time he would see me, I didn't see you last week. And then finally I was like, let me come. And alhamdulillah, that actually really drew me into the community. And then from there, I just started joining committees and getting really involved. So alhamdulillah, Sister Linda Abdulaziz, who started More for Youth, I attribute that pivotal, aspect of my life. And then also for Imam Mansour for never, making sure he invited me in no matter what, alhamdulillah.
And alhamdulillah, for me, my father, he made sure that we were exposed to a wide variety of approaches to Islam growing up. And, during my most formative years, early teens and things like that, I was in a place where I saw the impact that a decision or a bad decision could have. And I noticed the pattern of people who were making bad decisions and ending up in less than desirable predicaments were those who had fallen, to the wayside a little bit as far as practicing the deen. So I knew I wanted to be closer to the right path. And I was also exposed to people who, you know, portrayed themselves as though being on the right path, but, you know, maybe being a little bit too dogmatic or too forceful or too much rote driven in terms of their learning. So I wanted to be a person who is able to offer some balance to the community. And I just sought to, you know, be able to lend that perspective and make sure that we are keeping balance in mind when we engage with our youth and when we develop programs for the youth, and making sure that they're well-rounded individuals and prepared for this life and the hereafter, inshallah. So that's my motivation.
Beautiful.
And last but not least,
Alhamdulillah. I would say for me, it was, I grew up in Brooklyn, in New York, and then in Miami. And so there was like a collective of people who always just around us at Masjid Musi Khalifa to encourage us to just be engaged in the community. And we went to Al Kareem School there. And so that was like our Clara Muhammad Afrocentric experience as far as knowing who we are, where we came from, and, you know, our overall connection to just the Muslim Ummah. And then moving to Miami, there was, you know, alhamdulillah, like it was a blessing to have, you know, people our age, you know, looking like us. And, you know, we all at that point were in public school, but we would have weekend school at the masjid. So Imam Kazim Ahmed, may Allah have mercy upon him, Brother Khalil Salahuddin, may Allah have mercy upon him, they were, you know, just pivotal in like teaching us, you know, the Arabic, the Quran, and just really being a presence for us. And then of course the sisters in the community, my mother, Sister Lillian, a lot of people were just there, and Sister Sandra Farrakhan, may Allah have mercy on her. Just so many people I think were there to ensure that not only were we a part of the community and we felt a part of it, like they gave us jobs and work to do. They made us have a young adult group and we had to do it on our own and plan things on our own. And so we didn't feel like, you know, someone was putting something on us, we had to do it ourselves. And yeah, so, you know, I think that, and then just our Muslim youth in North America, that was something I started working with, and just getting that kind of exposure with other communities, as well as Rahman mentioned, like in college at University of Miami, the Islamic Students Association. So just at different parts of my life, it was always someone or something pulling me back to always say, this is the focus.
Yeah.
I think for me, the occasion would be the National Convention. And every year, seeing that I was a part of something bigger than just Oakland, California. I mean, as my childhood, young adulthood, I was coming from Oakland. And so the person too would be Imam Fahim Shuaib, that just impressed upon that group that we were a part of a national group and something bigger than our little city. Yeah, so that would be the two, the convention and Imam Fahim.
Alhamdulillah.
So the second and final question is, when you think about your transition coming from a young child to a young adult to now parents having children, and you think about your body of work, and then also thinking about the pioneers who kind of laid the foundation for us, you know, what are some of the things that you pull from your body of work that you think kind of mirrors or kind of enhances what the Trailblazers did for you all?
So this is the time we really want you all to get into your life's work, talk about your passions, you know, allow those that are watching today to see the work that you're doing, say it by name, you know, mention any organizations and books and things, so that we can continue to see that this legacy is ongoing, and that you all are, as Hanif said, continuing to be a branch on our tree.
Well, I'll start out. Right now, I'm kind of in the middle of a national tour for my book, which is called The Giants in My Midst. And it's really just a book about appreciating those people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts in your path, who you can glean information or inspiration from. And, you know, I just tell little stories of interactions that I had with them. And then from that story, I'll extract a principle that's universal for anyone seeking success. So it's been well received across the Ummah. And I think a part of the reason why is because, you know, some of the ideals that our pioneers did instill in the, you know, 70s, 80s, 90s, and the environments that they fostered and created for us, some of those ideals have gone by the wayside. So I use these tours to kind of, facilitate community discussions that reawaken some of those ideals. And I've been contacted after I've left and said that, certain communities have began new programs based off of that. In my work as chairman of CARE Oklahoma and as the convener of Masha Momin, I find myself in a position where I'm in a unique spot where I can be a bridge, kind of like a unifier between communities that have built walls and barriers over the years, the immigrant community and the Black community, the old and the young, those people who are well-versed in Quran and Sunnah and those who are not. And one of the fruits of kind of that labor right now, we're in the middle of organizing the first unified Eid in the city of Oklahoma City for in 20 years. And that's something that we took for granted coming up in Atlanta. It's something that we took for granted just all up and down the East Coast. And when you bring it up to people, they think that you're a genius or like, we got some novel concept, but it's really like, hey, look, I just missed this. This is what I'm used to, right? We just came from celebrating Eid Fest in Atlanta. Imam Suleiman was there and Shahida were there. Beautiful, 10,000 people there in the park that I grew up in. So we want to just replicate that on a smaller scale and let these people understand that the Ummah is beautiful, Eid is beautiful, our Deen is beautiful. And we don't have to just inherit, whatever ill will or contempt was developed between previous generations. So that's how it kind of manifests in my work.
Beautiful. Noor?
Yeah, so let's see, kind of, so I do a lot of things, just partially because I'm always looking for what I sometimes lacked as a child, right? And I want my children to be able to have those things. So alhamdulillah, like we just mentioned the unified Eids. Part of that was when I grew up in Oklahoma, we had unified Eids, right? And then it started to end when I became a teenager. And I'm a help to found, and I'm the chairman of the Clara Community Health Center. While it is named after our dear sister Clara Muhammad, may Allah be pleased with her, it's also named after Clara Looper, who was my mentor and a civil rights leader here in Oklahoma City. And it's a free clinic for the uninsured in which we really try to get people involved and allow, high school students and college students to volunteer and get that opportunity to really give back to the community. So that's one thing that, I'm involved with, but I also do a lot with just trying to remind people of our past, because I don't really know what exactly has happened. Sometimes I go to the pioneers and I'm like, remember you guys, we had a bakery, we had a school, we had a daycare. And they're like, yeah, I know. And I'm like, we need these things again. And they're like, I'm too old for that. I get it, but you share your expertise, inshallah. And then we need to find some of this income, right? And the funds so we can keep some of these things going. But one of the things that I really would like to just see is flourishing Islam. I see so many people I grew up with who went to the Sister Clara Muhammad schools, who went to the daycares, who were Muslim. None of them are Muslim, but all their children have Muslim names, but aren't practicing the deen. And if you ask them, they're like, I'm spiritual. And inshallah, my goal is to, obviously, if it's Allah's will, is that we're able to reconnect some of these people. And even if we can't get those who are my age, maybe their children with those Muslim names will be interested in learning more about Al-Islam and seeing the beauty of it within our city. So that's what motivates me a lot, because I realize that this religion is the cure for our ailments in this world. And as a pediatrician, I'm seeing so many things that I know that if people had a closer relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and had a community and were able to work on their true selves and who they are and their true identity, that, our communities have really tried to, foster a sense of self and who you are, that we would see so many of these things, minimize. And I think that's one of my goals, inshallah.
Rahman?
Yeah, I'll just say quickly, I've been trying to advise and work with a group of young adults. We started this almost a year, actually more than a year ago, to help young adults come together, because the influence of culture on our young people is so strong. And I have a young son, he's not young, he's a young man now. And as you all know, and just trying to find that influence of culture, and what you guys have done with Camp Khalil has been an excellent tool for them. I remember us having New World Patriotism Day back in the day when we had a drill team, and we had not only the Muslims, but people from the community say, I want to be a part of that. So, and then we had National Young Adult Association where people were coming to meet, and we had culture in the fashion show. And that culture is so strong that this new Muslim Culture Con group, like, they can give khutbahs, but that's not what we expected. We want them to show people that Islam addresses the full life and the full life of man. And so that's where I'm trying to get us to, and trying to advise them on helping us to grow and to gather those young people so they can be a benefit for each other and a benefit for the entire community using culture.
Sister Shahida Imam Suleiman.
Alhamdulillah. I would share that, you know, a big influence on me was my mother. And similar to Suleiman's mom, they were teachers in Clara Muhammad School in Oakland and Miami, respectively. And, you know, I just think Islamic education is just like a core principle, even if it's not a full-time institution, a weekend institution. And so I'm really, you know, just a supporter of curriculum development. I've been working with the Ascension framework based on the Imam's language, and just really infusing that into our curriculum as we're teaching all subjects, all you know, bodies of knowledge, and just not letting go of the institutions that we have established, and really just, you know, working with them consistently and making sure, like, you know, just doing professional development with the teachers and actually being on ground with the students and, you know, speaking with them. So I think that's integral, as well as the work I do with Sisters United in Human Service. Sister Kyria Faiz, may Allah have mercy upon her. She was like one of my mentors who was the president of the organization, but and now we're 25 years old as an organization. We do rites of passage for young ladies. We do scholarships for all, health conference for all. And so we do a lot of work within the Atlanta community, feeding the hungry and unhoused weekly. And I remember Nur Jihan and I were on the same feeding team. And it's like rain, sleet, snow, even during COVID, we kept going. And, you know, just having that consistency, I think that's really what the struggle is now, is just people let go of things after 2 or 3 years and they move on to the next thing. And so that longevity, that consistency, and there's just a commitment is really low. And so how do you motivate young people? How do you motivate people who are, you know, on TikTok for a minute, or, you know, just, it's just a minute to 3 minute life reel, versus building institutions that are sustainable and also have their modernity to it and are relevant to our culture, but really building people to see that they have a responsibility to the community and that they are a part of it, and we actually want them to be, and they see their position in that. And so that's really a lot of the work that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. Even with the young girls at the school, some of the Muslim Culture Con students, representatives are there, and we work with the young ladies and the young brothers just to show them that, you know, this is an extension of you, and, you know, while we are part of it, you are the continuum. So, you know, I think that's important. And just really making sure that these institutions that were established do not fall to the wayside on our watch. And so making sure that we're picking up the baton and being able to pass it with training to show what succession looks like and what sustainability looks like.
And on that note, the work that I do is right in that vein of preserving institution. And that institution is the Atlanta Masjid of Al-Islam. And on the shoulders of Sheikh Ibrahim Pasha and on the shoulders of Imam Pliman El-Amin, and preserving an institution that I didn't establish, but I'm doing a pretty good job at advancing it. I'll pop my collar on that, alhamdulillah. And so that's that work on a day-to-day basis. And with that in mind, though, that we are preserving an institution that a foundation was laid, and we can't let it go by the wayside or, you know, something else like that. And we know that that's their interest. And then the other one, Hajj pros, alhamdulillah. Because our teacher said, lead yourselves on Hajj. That's what Imam Muhammad, that's a directive that he gave. And we took that directive 18 years ago, alhamdulillah, my wife and myself, because it's not just me, of serving our community. Looking at this camera, we've traveled with a few of y'all on some planes and things, alhamdulillah, and continuing to do that to make sure that we have that rich experience for our community and Muslim Americans, and we could help in that too. Alhamdulillah, that's the day-to-day work that we're doing.
Alhamdulillah. So, you know, this comes full circle. You know, the work that our pioneers did, what they invested into us, and now we're giving back to the community and reinvesting We now, all of us have children that are on this panel. And so, you know, the leaves and the roots and the branches are continuing, you know, and life, as we know, is a full circle. So we're going to bring in the previous generation, the panel that was there. And so we can see kind of the full spectrum of our community and how it's grown and broadened over the years.
So this is going to be our recap. So inshallah, we look forward to hearing from all of us briefly. All right, assalamu alaikum. So alhamdulillah, we have all of the faces of our youth, our young adult, and our current adults who are continuing to establish and continuing to grow the legacy of those who have come before us. During today's workshop, we looked at what are the important factors, right? How have we all arrived at the point to where we are confident and we are clear in our identity as Muslims, identity as African-American Muslims, and or our identity just as Americans, and our expectation to invest in this society, and our identities as global people. A lot of us travel, have gone around the world, and have seen the conditions and have developed a greater appreciation, right, for our families, for our communities that have shaped us. We are making moves in STEM. We are making moves in establishment of culture, establishment of religious studies, Islamic studies, and more importantly, we are committed as youth, young adult, and adults in ensuring that excellence is our premium and our paramount focus and commitment. And so we are so grateful for all of you all and your willingness to sacrifice your time and share your experiences growing up Muslim in this country, and how you're using that valuable investment to continue to reinvest in the globe. So we'll just take a quick second. If anyone wanted to give any follow-up comments, ask any questions, we want to hear from us just all together, inshallah, just for a little bit. Maybe the young people want to ask some of our adults questions, or our adults may want to ask some of our young adult questions, inshallah.
Inshallah, I have a few questions. It was so enlightening. Assalamu alaikum. It was so enlightening to hear from you all. As a young adult, you feel like when you're involved in certain things like, oh, I'm doing good, I'm active in the community. Y'all all reminded me I need to do more. There's so much more to do. Just, man, mashallah, mashallah. I'm not trying to get emotional, but it's so beautiful. May Allah reward you all for contributing to our community. First question is, how can, I'm the Vice President of Muslim Culture Con, and by the way, how can Muslim Culture Con team up with Hajj Pros, inshallah, and have like a large young adult Hajj experience? Like, so many members in our group are single and looking for spouses. I'm married, alhamdulillah, but just
single and looking to mingle.
Yeah, so just an organic way. I mean, just, you know, sometimes I think like people want events to have like singles on it. That's not the way you do it. It's not organic, but just, you know, also connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the main focus of going on Hajj. But how can we team up with you all, inshallah, and creating that experience of young adult Muslims? I've never heard of any Hajj organizations having just all young adults go, but that came to mind now that we have you all on this call. So inshallah, you can.
It's very simple.
Okay.
And this is what you do.
Okay.
You sign up for the family Umrah that's happening in December, that's going to have Imam Wazir Ali and Imam Abdullah Rashid as the host, who are going to be doing the Sirah Intensive 2.0. 2.0, right?
Yeah.
Houston people? Right, yeah, what am I saying? Houston, right? Right, that's what I suggest. Everybody should come on that Umrah, and we do what we do, like we do when we do it.
For over 19 years.
And then come back from the Umrah married.
Married.
Right.
Shahid Suleiman's story is similar. They went abroad and studied and came back married, alhamdulillah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's where Shahida and I met in a study abroad program. And I think, now I'm looking at this crowd, we have at least 3 couples who came out of our previous Umrahs just right away. So, I mean, that is a thing to do. So, alhamdulillah. But I don't want to take the whole call as a commercial with HodgePros.com. Tell a friend. And yeah, Bismillah, let's make it happen, December.
Staying connected, that's what it's about. All right.
Thank you for asking.
Yes, Khadijah, thank you. All right. Any other questions or comments before we wrap up?
I did have a question for our young adults and younger members, just in terms of, like, I've seen Khadijah over the years was very, very involved. But for those who may be in areas where there are not as many opportunities, like, how are you guys finding those opportunities, or what are you guys, seeking out? Opportunities to engage with other young adults. I know we're not just for marriage, just to continue legacy of African American Muslims in America.
Shayla, Amir, Asia.
I think for my generation, it's just Camp Khalil, because that's pretty much the only thing we have for right now, I would say. As far as like a whole community, the WDM community, that's pretty much the only one that I've heard of.
And let me add, I'm not a young adult, but let me add, one of the reasons that I really push for us to do Muslim Culture Con, and Khadijah's been a valuable member and leader in that association or that organization, is because people have to see other people. And I remember 100 people coming, New York City having a bus or 2 buses of people coming down, and we were going down to Atlanta, or 20 people from Charlotte, or 15 people from Detroit coming together and seeing each other. It creates like a sense of community. Our community is really not that big. We're big, but not that big. And so providing those opportunities for people to come together and see, like, I got somebody like me. Like, that's what we want to see. And I think that's what draws people together. And you will see people, you'll be encouraged to see potential spouses and find other opportunities just to learn and grow together with people across the country. So I think the more there's those opportunities, Khadijah, I think the greater opportunity it is for us to have that.
And along those lines, Rahman, you brought up a very valuable point. I see I mentioned Camp Khalil, but that's 12 to 17, right? We have youth that are under the age of 12. How are we getting them primed to where they're in an environment that gives them an appetite to even want to be in an environment where they're completely surrounded by Muslims, where they feel comfortable enough, right, in their Islamic identity to want to be sent to a camp without fighting, right? Most of them fight, but once they get there, it takes about 2 hours and they're good. But it's just the getting them there, right? Having that appetite. And then as Rahman said, they age out at 17. So we have 18, to 25 where they're developing themselves. Rahman went off to college. Most of us went off to college. And so this is where we're meeting new people, meeting our spouses, meeting our future business partners. And we may or may not be constantly in an environment with Muslims, like Noor had asked, where you're feeling that connectivity. And so Muslim Culture Con is an instrumental institution that is in the formative stages now. And we're funneling kids there. I just spoke to my nephew the other day and he's like, I want to come back as a team leader. I'm like, well, that's 21. You have that 18 to 20 where you need to grow, develop, make sure you're far enough removed from the 17 and under to where you can really be asserted as a leader. And that's what Muslim Culture Con comes in. And any other institutions you all can mention that are beneficial to our community and keeping us connected.
I also wanted to share, like, those who are going off to college or in college, the Muslim Student Association is good to get involved and, plug in with the local community. Like, most often you'll have a match from our community in that area that you can connect with. I think, especially with the AUC, when I first came to Atlanta, just being able to connect with other Muslims that look like me at the Atlanta University Center was huge. Alhamdulillah. So I definitely encourage that.
And along the lines of what Shahida said, your city where you go to school may not have it. When Hanif and I went to Tallahassee, there was no MSA, not even for anybody. And so when we created the MSA, it was from our experience of being Muslim in the community of the indigenous African-American Muslim, and we created something out of nothing. And so you all need to be confident in knowing that you have a support system. You can reach out to any of us. And all of us have been involved in some capacity on the college campus, and we can show you how to establish something. Don't feel like it has to be a Hodge Pros or a Camp Khalil, or you have to, create this huge institutions initially. It could be 2 of you all coming together every day, reading Quran to each other, making prayer together. Khalas, like, that's it. And it will go from there.
And definitely, just to add on that, what part of the reason I asked that question was just because that, that was something I haven't heard a lot. I mean, I've heard about Muslim Culture Con, but just just more activities, more things. That's something that's pretty new. But I will say that I was a part of that Atlanta University Muslim Student Association. But at Spelman, we needed something just for us sisters. We needed something that was a little bit different. And so we created an organization called Al Nisa, in which we would come together and we would do things just as sisters, alhamdulillah. And so definitely, as you all said, reach out and kind of see, but don't be afraid to even create something within something. If you need that safe space, brothers, create your sister, whatever you might need. So that allows that as well. But inshallah, many of these things, we hear about many more organizations as time goes by that many of you all, as young adults, will soon create, inshallah.
And on that note,
I was just going to say, for me personally, just observing the conversation and then just kind of looking at where we are as a community. I know in the first experience, everyone can go into every major city, go to any temple and have some continuity there, whether it be a salon restaurant, the temple, something, right? Then in our generation came the birth of the convention and the young adult conferences. And now I can say, that I can pick up the phone in pretty much any major city and call somebody that I know personally if I got into a situation or if I just needed direction for, where the masjid is, where the community is. And so the generation that's coming after us, of course, with the assistance of us, we have to keep that continuity there, because this is, what we're seeing right now. If we're not seeing people that we were in those spaces with, we're seeing the children of those people. So I know, like Amir, we know your mother very, very well. Aisha, I know your brother, your father, your parents, very, very well. So that continuity has to keep going so that we have, these type of these outlets right now. And so I would just say, our charge as coming up as like Rahma, we're coming up in the status as pioneers, that's coming up on us. So it's on us.
Hey man, don't say the P word yet, man. We holding on.
No, I'm not.
I mean, if you think about the years of
They can't
work,
see my grades. They
You
can't see
pushing
my, I'm still
P. That's the whole new
mean,
meaning of pushing P.
if you think about the years of work that we put in, I mean, we're knocking on the door of 40 years, just when we started, because we started in this work as teenagers, so I'm just saying that, keeping the continuity so that those young people have that experience of, like, in any major city, I can call somebody, and not just be, well, I sent you a TikTok message or I sent you an Instagram message. No, it's like, who can I visually see, touch, give a hug to, and know that, you're a part of the same womb that we came out of.
Just to add quickly to what Imam Hanif said, yeah, young adults, we don't have that. How you just said you can reach out, I'm going to be completely honest with you, we don't have that, because we were thinking of that with going into the Time to Be Grateful, how nice it would be to reach out to every state and have someone be present at the Time to Be Grateful. It was very hard to be able to achieve that. So inshallah, y'all can share the hikmah on how we can accomplish and be able to have that also.
Alhamdulillah.
That's our mission, Khadija.
Aisha, what'd you say?
If I can add to what Khadija said, I'm also part of the Muslim Culture Con, and what we talk about all the time is how are we going to keep this organization going after, we age out, because a lot of you all mentioned a lot of organizations that, aren't necessarily active anymore. So, going back to what Imam Hanif Khalil said about the continuity, I just think we need to really figure out the how, like, how do we continue it? How do we bring the younger generations in and mentor them so that they can keep that going, inshallah.
I would offer one thing that I did do when I was younger with the it was Muslim Youth in North America, but they did a youth leadership training. So a week they just, like, every city sent 1 or 2 people. So maybe like 40 youth from around the country, but we stayed in people's homes. We were in Virginia, Maryland area, and we were homes for the whole week, and we did community service, we did classes, and we were up from like Fajr until Isha. And so I would say do like an intensive week, where everyone can possibly do it. And then these people who are right here, we can be a support for you in that. But I do think gathering at least one person from each city, like, it's difficult, but you put the call out there, we can garner that interest, inshallah, and bring that support for what you need.
Alhamdulillah. We are so grateful for the time that you all have committed to being on today. Hopefully everyone who is watching can make connections to their own personal life and continue this conversation. You know, gather the people in your community of multiple generations and answer these questions, right? About what has been influential in forming you, what have been some threats to your growth and development, and what do you see your charge? What do you see as your purpose as we continue community life? We want to thank all of you all for joining us. Thank you all for listening in to our New Medina retreat presentation. On behalf of Camp Khalil, I am Medinah Khalil.
I'm Hanif Khalil.
And thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
All right. Assalamu alaikum.